the Strike Gundam was an extremely versatile and effective mobile suit for the Alliance. And so, to make it even more versatile, the FX-550 Skygrasper was developed as a support fighter for the Strike. Or at least that's the most common version of this story, because as is so often the case, the truth is a bit more complicated. And it all began with the F-7D Spearhead, a multi-purpose air superiority fighter made by PMP. This bad boy was the main fighter used by the Alliance during the First Bloody Valentine War, and unlike what you might be expecting, it was actually a very effective tool to fight off enemy mobile suits. While machines like the Din did have better mobility and firepower, the Spearhead had much better speed and range, allowing them to intercept mobile suits at longer ranges and then wear them down with hit-and-run tactics. And on top of that, even though they had less firepower, they still had enough firepower, being 4 20mm machine guns, a drum-type launcher with 6 missiles, and a weapons bay. And if that wasn't enough, on one occasion, the Spearhead showed that it had close combat capabilities as well. Edward Harrelson got the nickname Ed the Ripper after he cut a Din special electronic installation type in half with the wings of his Spearhead. Ed claims that he totally did this on purpose, but there are also rumors that he was just hungover. Unsurprisingly, he would later go on to become a close combat specialist as a mobile suit pilot, with his most famous machine being the Sword Calamity. Which he then stole because, you know, that's what happens to Gundams in the Cosmic Era. Someone really should have told him about the benefits of using a VPN like NordVPN, which also allows you to dodge those annoying region locks. And on top of that, by using the link down below, or the code kkrt, you'll not just get a sweet discount, but you'll also be supporting the channel. But back to the Spearhead now. It also had VTOL capabilities, and would often be used as a carrier-based fighter by the Alliance Navy, increasing their effective range even further. It wouldn't be until the introduction of the Jet Striker pack, at some point before the Second Bloody Valentine War, that the Spearhead would be replaced as the main aerial fighter for the Alliance. But even then, it could still be seen as a support fighter or as a reconnaissance aircraft. So to say that these fighters served with distinction would be an understatement. And as a result, not everyone in the Alliance leadership was so eager to replace them with mobile suits, which in their eyes were coordinator inventions made for coordinators. And on top of that, even though their mobile armors in space were still having a hard time, they were no longer suffering as badly as they were at the beginning of the war. And so PMP didn't pitch the Skygrasper as the Strike's delivery boy, but as an advanced tactical fighter that also just happened to have the ability to act as a support fighter for the Strike. And you can really tell by its standard weapons that it was meant to fight against enemy mobile suits by itself. It had a beam cannon turret with more than enough power to tear right through mobile suits, 2 smaller beam cannons that still had plenty of power, 4 20mm machine guns, and 2 weapon bays that could be outfitted with a variety of missiles and bombs. Options per weapon bay included 4 anti-ship missiles, which were newly developed for the Skygrasper, 6 medium-range air-to-air guided missiles, a standard of the Alliance arsenal, 1 laser-guided 1,000-pound bomb, 12 short-range air-to-air guided missiles, the same type as those used by the Buster, 1 anti-runway penetration bomb, 8 250-pound bombs, and 1 1,000-pound bomb. And its capabilities could be even further expanded by the hard points on the tips of its wings. And I'm not just talking about the ability to mount striker packs on there. The Skygrasper had its own options as well. For example, a conformal fuel tank, aka a CFT. Not only did this give the Skygrasper a larger fuel capacity, but it also comes with extra weapon hardpoints that then could be used to double the amount of bombs it could carry. Other options were the Reconnaissance Pack, which also had a built-in CFT and a mono-eye camera, the Firepower Pack, which adds a total of 4 beam cannons to the Skygrasper's arsenal, an Electronic Warfare Pack for better ECM capabilities under N-jammer interference, and a Booster Pack for extreme high altitude interceptions against enemy craft undergoing atmospheric re-entry. So again, the Skygrasper was intended as anything but a glorified delivery device. But due to the amazing performance of the prototype Strike Gundam, the 2 prototype Skygraspers that were delivered to the Archangel did end up becoming just that. And so its ability to both deliver and use those striker packs did become its most defining feature. And the most famous of those striker packs were, of course, the Ale Striker, which gave it higher speeds and an extra beam cannon, the Launcher Striker, which did make it less maneuverable, but also gave it access to the multi-weapon pod and extremely powerful Agni, and the Sword Striker, something that turned this fighter craft into a quasi-mobile armor, because it was now able to use the grappling hook to grapple things, and the sword could be lowered to cut things. Transferring these to the Strike Gundam then was as simple as flying up to it, ditching the equipment, and then letting the computer take care of the rest. Other known compatible striker packs then are the Lightning Striker, although it couldn't use any of its weapons, the G-Flight, a striker pack purpose-built for the S-Ray outframe to give it greater range and speed, and the Raijin Striker, a heavy pack with heavy firepower that of course also made the Skygrasper very difficult to control. And I wonder if it would be the same with the IWSP and the Multiple Assault Striker pack. Like, would they be straight up too heavy to use, or would they just make the Skygrasper more difficult to control, along with a big hit to its speed and mobility? But while this striker pack compatibility did greatly increase the performance of both the Skygrasper and the Strike, there were also some downsides to this design. In order to fit the full striker pack, the wingtips of the Skygrasper were modeled after the Strike shoulders, which weren't exactly the most aerodynamic things around, meaning that it did have an effect on its flight characteristics. But this then could be easily remedied by the automation technology that they gained from the G-weapons, something that was of course extremely important to operate these highly complex machines that could normally only be operated by coordinators. For the Skygrasper, it meant that the computer would automatically correct for all of the crazy things the striker packs were doing, as well as its not exactly optimal aerodynamics. And it was able to do this to such a degree that even novice pilots were able to effectively use this machine. On the other end of the spectrum then, a more experienced pilot could turn off its automation for more advanced and risky maneuvers. Due to its design, the Skygrasper was a very touchy machine, capable of quick rolls and pitch changes, which for an inexperienced pilot would make this craft uncontrollable, but an ace pilot could make use of these characteristics and even outperform mobile suits. Also, while this was never mentioned anywhere, I assume that it was also thanks to this automation that the two-seater Skygrasper could now also be operated by a single novice pilot, because it was actually designed for a pilot and a navigator to fly it, but because the Archangel was short on manpower, The two prototype units would be exclusively used with a single pilot behind the controls. For Unit 1, this was Mula Flaga, who would mostly use the Launcher Striker pack, and for Unit 2, this was Gagali Yula Atha, followed by Tol Koenig, both of whom would most commonly use the Sword Striker pack, with the Ale Striker pack then being most commonly used by the Strike. Another thing then that made the Skygrasper a formidable fighting force were its vectored thrusters, allowing for both advanced maneuvers and also VTOL capabilities. In short, the Skygrasper was perfect, and well on its way to mass production. Until one of the two prototypes was destroyed, and the other one went AWOL shortly thereafter, along with the ship it was stationed on. So for a while, it was feared that the amazing Skygrasper would be slowly forgotten about. But just like the loss of the prototype Strike Gundam didn't stop the Alliance from producing it, the loss of the prototype Skygraspers didn't stop them from mass producing this thing either. Once the Striker Pack compatible 105 Dagger began production, the Skygrasper was the perfect companion machine and would continue supporting them throughout the Second Bloody Valentine War. Which then makes me wonder about the compatibility with the Jet, Doppelhorn, and Multi-Striker pack. The Jet seems like a no-brainer, but the Doppelhorn and the Multi-Striker could be an issue due to their weight and shape. But still, the idea of mounting two giant nukes on a Skygrasper amuses me. And thanks to its excellent performance on Earth, it should almost go without saying that work began on a space version as well. The FXet-565 Cosmograsper, the machine that was meant as a replacement for the Mobius. For political reasons, it became a collaboration between the Atlantic Federation's PMP and Advanced Space Dynamics, the Republic of East Asia's Fujiyama, and Orb's Morgan Rate. And it did receive more upgrades than you might think at first sight. The engines were changed, the canopy-style cockpit was replaced with an armored cockpit using a VR system, the main wings now serve as radiators for heat dissipation, it got extra verniers to allow it to maneuver more like a mobile suit, and its weapon systems were slightly overhauled. It kept the 20mm machine guns, main beam cannon, and sub-beam cannons of the Skygrasper, but instead of a weapons bay, it now has a weapon hardpoint under each wing, for which we know of two options: medium cannons or 6-barreled Gatling guns. So it seems that our Cosmograsper no longer has the missiles of the Skygrasper. But what it does still have is the ability to use Striker packs. And again, we see an upgrade here, because the main Striker pack that it was designed to operate with was the upgraded space variant of the Ale Striker. And here you can also see that it was designed with the mobile suits that it would be operating alongside in mind. The Skygrasper and the Ale Striker were for the Strike Gundam, whose only close combat weapons were a pair of measly Armor Schneider combat knives, so the two beam sabers on the Ale Striker were a welcome addition. But the Cosmograsper and the Cosmo Striker were designed for the 105 Dagger, a machine that already had two beam sabers. And so the Cosmo Striker no longer has those beam sabers. They would be useless for the Cosmograsper and redundant for the 105 Dagger. What eventually became of the Cosmograsper project, though, is hard to say, but unfortunately, the fact that we know so little probably does also say something about its deployment. If it was mass-produced to any capacity at all, it would have been near the end of the First Bloody Valentine War, and by the Second Bloody Valentine War, the Mobius had been replaced by either mobile suits or heavy mobile armors, with no Cosmograspers in sight. And even though the mobile suits did still have Striker Pack compatibility, there didn't seem to be much focus on changing them mid-battle. Although this might have had more to do with the fact that they simply didn't live long enough to outlast their battery. And so this is where the story ends for the Skygrasper, a very powerful and versatile fighter that got overshadowed by mobile suits. It's really a shame that we didn't see more of it in Destiny as like the Alliance's main fighter or as a support craft for their Striker Pack compatible mobile suits. For example, something like the Strike E, which we'll be having a look at in the next part of the Strike's development history. So stay tuned for that. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope everyone watching has a great day, and I'll see you all next time.